Please remember that the meetings are recorded. You know, so if anyone misses it out, we don't want them to miss all our fun and chit chat. Okay, screen sharing is done and up. And then I just can't see much of the main screen right now. So if there's a hand or something, please yell. So yeah, welcome to our third meetup for Q3. The year is quickly coming to a close, but exciting things are about to ensue or have ensued. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Karina. I'm just the loud community crazy cheerleader that likes talking. And so I'm having a chance today at hosting our auspicious event. Dan and Nick will also be presenting for us today. I'm telling you, they are formidable. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that shortly. Shan, you'll keep an eye out for any comments and such that I miss, right?
Yes, I will.
Okay, great stuff. Thanks so much. So for those of you who may be new or unfamiliar with our roadmap, we have, you know, every quarter we have certain events. We've got 3 meetings, so 1 per month. And our basic structure of this is that we, in the first month's meeting, we have a roadmap. What's the interesting tool? What's the interesting platform or methodology we're going to be looking at during this period? Then in the second month, we do ideation. This is always the most fun. I'm sure Picky, the pyromaniac dog, can attest to this, for those of you who know Picky. So this is where we get to play with fun engines. We messed around with GPT-3. We did some Power Automate. We did some, you know, really exciting things. And we all play together and, you know, go through ideation. Ideation then sparks interest and hopefully gets us all to go and try and build something. And that's where today comes in, because now is the demos. So the tool that we chose, the methodology we looked at, we go play with that. And then in the third one, we give our demos. And today, Dan and Nick will show us what they have been up to. Our theme, every quarter has a theme, and we've been looking specifically at low code or no code banking. So just for our agenda, we should run for about 60 minutes, unless the boys are very fast. So obviously I will do the welcome and intro. Dan is going to do a lovely PowerApps demo for us of a build he did. Nick will share with us the crazy, intrepid explorer who decided he will build an app in 90 minutes flat with an audience. He's going to share with us how that went, some outcomes and some learnings from that. And he'll then also share with us some community updates, you know, things that are changing and exciting stuff in the community. And remember, there's always swag up for grabs. So don't be forgetting to fill in the survey at the end. Catch your swag. Makes everyone happy. And then, yeah, we'll just have a wrap up and a quick chat, and we'll give everyone some time for questions. So Dan, are you ready to take it from here, sir?
I am ready. And also, I've updated my background to Picky the Pyromaniac.
Oh, Picky! Oh, I love Picky.
Cool. Thanks, Karina. Hey, everyone. I'm going to give you a quick demo and tell you what I built and what I learned around Power Automate and PowerApps, specifically a connector for the Microsoft ecosystem. Am I controlling, or are you controlling, Karina? Should I request keyboard control? Okay, cool. So yeah, as per the theme of the quarter, like low code's becoming really, really popular, and I've been playing a lot with Power Automate. There's many workflow builders out there. I quite like Power Automate. I think it's quite intuitive, but also like super powerful. You can connect into hundreds and hundreds of different APIs, and it seems like they add like 10 or 20 every day. So it's pretty cool as a platform. There's like a tiny screenshot here. As you can see, this only goes up to A. And yeah, so there's hundreds there. But next slide, please. Oh, sure. Okay, so just a simple flow you can build. So this one is using the Gmail and the weather.com and the Slack connectors. So what I've got here is when I receive an email, check the weather, and if it's not nice outside, then send a reply and say, sorry, I can't help you right now, I'm sun tanning. And if it's not nice outside, then like send me a Slack and say, hey, this person's waiting for a reply. And that takes literally 30 seconds to build. And the number of connectors they have means that it's super flexible. But next slide, please. What I noticed was that there was no programmable banking connector and there's no way to control my finances. Now, I can write code, but even though I can write code, it's actually way easier just to use these workflow builders for simple use cases. So I thought it'd be cool if I could make it possible for anyone to be able to control their money without needing to code. So this sort of took me down the rabbit hole of figuring out like what is a connector and how do you build one and what does it entail. So yeah, I did start building a connector. It's actually really, really easy to do. I'll go into some detail now. If you have like an open API file or a Postman file, Microsoft lets you just upload that file and it turns it into, I think it's a Open API 3, Swagger 3, something like that file. Microsoft sprinkles in their own stuff as well, but it's basically just like the most modern API standard. So if you have that file, you can just upload it and everything is sort of managed for you. So my first port of call was to do that with the Investec Postman file that I had on hand. But I hit a couple of challenges, so I'm going to talk through those. Next slide, please. Oh, here's a quick demo. So on the left is the Swagger file. It's basically just YAML. You can see here it's like the ZAPV v1 accounts, get accounts, and then it just spells out all of the fields that go in and come back, and that converts to the get accounts action in Power Automate. And obviously, every endpoint that was on the Investec API, I just loaded up into Power Automate. So you can do basically anything that you could do with the API inside this connector. But then I did hit a few challenges. So the one is authentication. Power Automate gives you a couple different auth strategies. You can use like an API key. You can also do three-legged auth. Those are the two main ones that they do. But neither of those actually work directly with Investec's auth. Investec takes an API key, but wants you to change it for a bearer token and then use that bearer token for your requests, which is something that I just could not figure out in Power Automate. They don't let you set custom headers, so you kind of have to use their authentication strategies. And then the three-legged auth, I just can't set that up easily myself. I have to go through a whole vendor onboarding process. So that was something I had to figure out how to get the auth right. The other challenge was, it's all well and good just like making an API request, but sometimes you want to do like some parsing or some pre-processing or whatever. And I didn't really feel like learning C#, which is what Microsoft's solution is to being able to add complex functionality to the connector. So my solution here was to build an Express.js app that sits in between. So it's a super, super simple app. Here's sort of the main components of it is essentially just a proxy. So any incoming GET requests to my app and any incoming POST requests to my app, it literally just takes my API keys, fetches a bearer token from Investec, and then just passes on whatever params were coming in on that request with the bearer token. So it like bridges that gap of authentication. And that actually worked pretty well, and it was super flexible. But then what I realized is because I have this app that's basically just getting auth and passing on requests, and maybe I could do more with it. So what I realized was that it was a great place to like add extra functionality. So I added two things. Yeah, please, next slide. I added two things. The one was like Power Automate subscriptions. So in Power Automate, you can trigger flows based on like when I press a button, which is just a manual flow, but you can also make the flows run automatically. And I wanted to be able to set up to trigger my flows whenever I spent money on my card, which meant sort of managing webhooks and subscriptions from the Power Automate side. So I added a functionality called card triggers. And what that does is when you add a flow on Power Automate side for like when I spend money, then it talks to my app and like subscribes that flow on my app side. And then whenever I spend money on the root side, it talks to my app and my app broadcasts that message to all of the Power Automate subscribers. I will go through a demo now, so you'll see what I mean. And then the other thing was like card control. So it's super flexible to be able to add like whatever root code you want to your cards. But most people don't know how JavaScript works. And I didn't want to make just a like deploy root code action. So I made a endpoint on my app called set card policy, like set card rules. And it takes just like simple params like approved transactions, true or false, and broadcast events, true or false. And you could add like merchant whitelist or whatever to it. And those params then get turned into like a custom blob of JavaScript and put onto the card. So then on the Power Automate side, I can say like approve yes or no, and it gets turned into the JavaScript that then gets deployed, which makes it super simple to be able to set up like custom rules for your cards. Cool. So then I have a couple of minutes demo just showing some of the cool things you can build if you have a connector. I'm going to plug it into a bunch of different ecosystems and just talk through like what's going on there.
So Dan, if you ask me for control, you can actually control my screen that's displaying at the moment. Then you can drive that.
Can you just hit play and then I can talk through it?
Okay.
The video should be, it should just run. Yeah. They're trying to onboard you.
Say no. Say
Oh my word. No. How do I say no? I don't want to.
Oh, personal project.
Ah,
This is fun. You can fill out the form with you. What else?
request access. No, I don't want access. I don't want a workspace. Can I just please?
I think you could just go back, probably.
Yeah, just go
Let's
back
try
and click.
this.
Just click on the link again. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, just press play.
Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here I am setting up a manually triggered flow, which just means whenever I press the button, the flow runs. And I'm going to use the get transactions action and just put in my account ID for my personal account. So what that does is makes an API request to Investec for that account ID. And then I'm using the Excel spreadsheet connector with a spreadsheet that I've already set up. And I'm just going to add a row into that table for my transactions. So I've selected the spreadsheet, and this is me just saying like which column each field of output from the transactions request goes into. So the ID is the posted order, and the description is the description, and blah, blah, blah. Cool, so that's a pretty basic flow. And then if you run that, which should happen any second now, I'm going to run the flow. Then you can see over in Excel, it dumps all of my transactions into the spreadsheets. And it's quite satisfying watching them come through, sort of one every second. So I think that's something that almost anyone can figure out if they have the connector. And there's many different actions and apps you can use. But what I learned, which is pretty cool, is that this has pretty deep integration with MS Teams. So you can set up flows inside MS Teams that let you, like literally from the compose box, run a flow. So here I'm like querying my account balances inside MS Teams, and it replies inside the app straight from the compose box. So I'm just going to show you how that flow works. The trigger is from the compose box, and all I do is get accounts, and then for each account I append it to a string just so that it's all one message, and then post that message as a reply. And I think that's pretty powerful as something you can sort of give to your whole team so that everyone can get visibility on their finances, and it takes just a few minutes to build. And then I did one other one, which is transfer money into my savings. So I'm just going to send 10 Rand from my current account into my savings straight from MS Teams. And that then runs the Investec transfer API. And there we go, transfer success, and it just dumps the transfer details. And then just to prove that it actually worked, I'm going to check my balances again. So my savings was at 125, and now it's at 135. So we moved money just from MS Teams in low code, which is pretty cool. And then one last thing I had was I spoke about the card triggers. I've got the card spend trigger, which is why I had all that Power Automate webhook pub sub stuff. So I just say, here's my flow on card spend, post a message to Slack. And here I'm just in the simulator to show you me triggering a request on root side, and there it is piped into Slack. So that root code is not sending directly to Slack, it's sending to the sort of central app, and then however you configure Power Automate, it gets routed through those flows. I'm gonna do one more fake donation to the Free Software Foundation, who I assume are in Iowa for no reason. And there we go, came through on Slack. So yeah, this is just like a very small slice of what you can do, but having this connector means that essentially any app you can think of, you can wire in and out to your bank account. So that's my quick demo. And I think that's it. Yeah, I'd just love to know, like, what do you folks think? Do you have any thoughts or comments or questions or anything I can share further?
No questions?
Dan, is there anything else that you want to build on this further, or is that like the type of functionality that you're looking at, or wanting to
Yeah,
add?
it's a good question. I think it's got the basic API functionality, but what I would add to it would be sort of more interesting actions on top. So one obvious one is like a whitelist on my cards. So maybe I can set a rule and say only allow fuel and food, but not entertainment or something. So like smarter actions inside that middle app would be quite interesting. Yeah, that's probably the main thing I would add next.
That's pretty cool.
You mentioned some issues with the auth and stuff like that. How do you think those things can be like improved or made easier?
I think it's a good question. So I think Microsoft basically just wants to standardize auth. They don't let you mess with headers or anything. So the only real way to not require a middle service is for the API itself to change. So Investec would need to either make it easy for three-legged OAuth to be like spun up individually, or just take like a static API key without you needing to exchange it for a single-use token. I don't see Microsoft changing it on their side. There's requests for it that are like 3 years old on the forums, so I don't think it's going to change.
There we go. Any other questions or comments for Dan? Any other applications you guys can think of perhaps for this?
Dan, from my side, looks great. Well done.
Thanks. One last thing to add is that what's cool about having a connector in Microsoft is it works with all their apps. So you can build Power BI dashboards on top of your finance. You can like use app builders and all sorts of other things. They've got like a whole suite of tools that plugs into this. So sort of like build once and use everywhere within Microsoft, which is quite cool.
That's very nice. Thank you so much,
Dan.
sir.
Yeah, sorry, Dan, I just wanted to, is there like a cheap way of getting into Power BI, for instance, in the Microsoft ecosystem?
I actually didn't realize that it cost a lot of money because I just have a 365 subscription. Is it prohibitive for you?
Which one does it come? Well, I just, because I don't really use any of the Microsoft products. So I just sort of, I think I looked briefly and it was, it just seemed like very complicated as to which products include Power BI and which ones don't. And so I closed the window and never looked back.
I just subscribed to their like most inclusive package, and so it's a couple $100 a month.
Okay.
I'll say. Anything further before we move on to Mr. Benson?
I haven't been
Okay,
called
great
that in a
stuff.
while.
Mr. Benson.
Gosh, I'm in trouble.
Okay, great stuff. So now that is approved and you can drive, so.
Cool, thanks. So I'm going to talk about how to build an app very quickly in 90 minutes with people watching, with the time crunch, with all sorts of things. And it's a budget expense app. The thing is that this was more around how do I actually build the process? How do I build the culture? How do I actually put it into action a little bit? And I've stolen this line that VT mentioned in a interview that I saw early on in the week. So, and I really liked it. And that became kind of the theme, essentially, of what I was thinking about, was getting started very faster. And I'll talk about why I am looking at getting that a little more faster. So I'll talk very quickly about something that I bought very quickly. Let me get this. Is it clicking through? Ah, there we go. Cool. Oh, what happened? Okay, so the goal or the whole insights that we kind of had is that we've been working very much in the last quarter around whole spreadsheets and building out these spreadsheets and doing some really cool things. We had a hackathon around it. The guys brought some really cool things. But then the idea was, well, it would be even cooler if this was in an app in my hand that I can do with the expenses. So that became the driving sort of thought around it. Then the job that needed to be done was basically that I needed to how do I build this out? How do I document this whole sort of process? How do I make it into a tutorial that other people can quickly start to use the API a little more quicker, start to play around with the budgeting a little more quicker? And then how do I do it in 90 minutes? Don't ask me why I said 90 minutes. I just had 90 minutes and I managed to do it in 90 minutes. Yeah, thank you, Karina. And then on top of that was how do I help people actually build quicker with the API, and then how do we build this in community rather than building it in public or building it on our own in a corner. So that was the three main sort of whole drivers to all of this. But how do I build this in 90 minutes? How do I build this in public? And how do I have a bit of fun about it? So that was really, and then of course, how do I pretend that the code is lava, like how the floor is lava? Or how do I pretend that the code is lava? How do I avoid as much code writing as I could to get this done as quick as I can? So as part of our theme in the quarter has been no code, low code. So that was essentially the principles. The outcome is very a concept, but it's how we got there that was really the cool part. So I'll walk you very quickly around that. See if I can click this. So all of these things kind of all start with good planning. So planning ahead, if you're going to do a sprint, it's always important to kind of think about that whole planning a little bit more, and did a mural board and made some screens that I thought that what would I be able to achieve in 90 minutes and what is it that I wanted to do from an expense budgeting point of view. I wanted to be able to be access controlled. I wanted a view and a summary of what my budget is like at that point in time in that month. I wanted a list of my expenses and I wanted to see those expenses in a category. Sounds simple enough, right? Yeah, we'll find out why it wasn't. But so then I said, okay, cool. Let's start to figure out how I'm going to build this out. So we had these Google Sheets and I use Google Sheets, and I'll talk a little bit more about that now of why I use Google Sheets. And then I had a choice between whole PowerApps, because we've been doing some really cool things in PowerApps. I really wanted to use the connectors and really play around with the Power BI stuff, or I could use Glide. Glider, I saw a while ago and was really intrigued about it when we were looking at spreadsheet banking, and now wanted to use it a little bit more. So this was a good opportunity to kind of use to kind of do it and use it. There were some more challenges that I encountered, of course. I'd spent 2 to 3 days just hammering away at PowerApps. So the idea was to build this out in a PowerApps sort of project. I know, as much of you guys have mentioned before, that there's a lot of time, just I didn't have enough time to actually just play around with it a lot more. There was access control sort of things, permissions from Dataverse permissions to Excel permissions that were just getting annoying. And then don't even get me started on graphs. PowerApps and graphs, I don't know why they don't like each other, but they just don't. And of course, it was my very first time using PowerApps, so I was still trying to figure out what everything was. So there was a big learning curve, and not a lot of time. So I quickly shifted and said, right, let me play around with Glide quick. So I spent a week before this actual board sprint, this 90-minute board sprint, to actually just play around with each of these things. So I played around with Glide, and I could do the thing that I wanted to do in 20 minutes. So again, as VT, but I'm stealing lines from you, apologies. But as VT mentioned, and I thought it was really cool, and they were like really cool. He kind of said that when you're younger and when you're trying to board up your cred and whole thing of boarding stuff, you want to board things from the bottom up. You want to board your own world, but sometimes you just want to get things done just a little more faster, and sometimes that kind of works to just test out an idea. And that's what we're trying to get to, is just how do we test an idea? How do we just get it out of the door quickly? But does this work? Does this not work? So I'll do a quick little demo on this. There is a Loom video that I did, but I'm wondering, Karina, you think I can share my screen? And then I can walk the guys through this stuff a little more or easier than watching a Loom thing. Just stop it there. Cool. Guys, if there's any sort of questions, please let me know. I'm happy to ask as we go. Okay. So the end result that we were trying to achieve was a nice, pretty app that gives me my budget app for like how much I've got left for the month, list of my expenses, give me my expenses of the total sort of expenses, and I walk through that. So this is it saying, right, this is how much it costs, this is who it was for, categories of the whole groceries, so I can see those categories and how much was actually used and how much I've left in my budget. Very quick and simple that I can literally use in the shops itself. I can add expenses in the shop saying I bought this, so I can quickly get it. That's the proof of sort of whole concept. So I put out a call to the community, said, hey guys, I'm going to be doing this in 90 minutes. Want to come and watch me fail at this, or kind of help out and give advice and give some feedback. And Karina and a number of other people also joined us on that call. They were really great, really giving feedback as they went. And it kind of helped from a community point of view, because a lot of times if you're boarding stuff in a public space, people don't really know about the product or about what you're trying to achieve, or they'll give you some feedback, but it's like that mom test sort of thing. And people, it's not really the nice feedback, but it's not really great feedback. Boarding stuff in a community, and in this community, was actually very, very cool, because everyone who's in the community knows kind of what we're trying to do, and that sort of thing. And it's just a nicer and safer environment to build stuff in the community. So that was kind of cool. So I mapped it out. We got some good sort of whole feedback of what we wanted to achieve and what we wanted to do, and what was feasible in 90 minutes and what wasn't feasible in 90 minutes. So we said, cool. So what we actually did was saying, but let's use an existing very cool Google Sheet, the treasury management one, because there's some functionality in that we really wanted, was that treasury management side of it. So we quickly grabbed that because it's existing on our community wiki. So we grabbed that, and then we made app items and app categories that I'm going to show you now, which fits into our app itself. So as you can see, we've got app items and app categories. So those are two simple things that we wanted to achieve. So in this, all we needed to do was, so we'll set up our account details and everything else later on, and we'll plug into this. And this is the next phase, which I'll talk to you guys about now. But basically, all we had to say was, what was the categories that we wanted? What was the monthly limit? Easy. And then items, I pre-populated this with some demo items or sample content to just give it some flesh in the app itself. The next phase would be, of course, to connect it up and do hyper categorization and everything else. But we just wanted to test the idea first. So we did that. Then we moved over to Glide apps, which is very cool, very quick. That connects up directly with my Google Sheet that I could quickly grab all of my items to my categories and start to do maths directly on those items. Start adding in maths and categorizations and relationships and lookups in all of that sort of stuff is the existing table. So I can use the Google Sheets as my base sort of data, that raw data, and then I can bring it into the app, and the app can do it on the app side, all of the maths, all of the calculations. So we can actually play around with it a lot better. So that's where that summary page then came in, was saying, right, how do I total spend? I wanted to do that, so work out my budget. So there was some maths involved in all of this. I was trying to avoid code as much as I could, but I had to do some maths too, which was a bit annoying. But yeah, it's fun and games. So that worked out like my budget, what was my burn, because that sort of stuff. So that was actually pretty cool. So all of that is bringing in. So imagine when we start to bring it in to the connections around saying, right, this is how much my budget is, send some money from my savings to my main account because my budget is running over. So that's the next sort of phase to all of this. Then Glide allows me a nice little UI that I can play around with to add in, to make pretty pictures and add and kind of pull in that dynamic data directly. So I could do all of the stuff that I wanted to do in that 90 minutes. So that was essentially the learnings that we made from all of that. Because I'll share the Miro board and everything else is in the actual chat and on our Slack group. Also, you can take a look, but we'll share it also post that. But so I'll stop sharing now, and Karina, you can reshare your screen if you want. So that's the basic setup, just quick and dirty. We played around with the guys a lot. Everyone gave some really great feedback, and the lessons and learnings from all of that. And you can see I've got a longer Loom video here that I'll show the whole build process itself. It actually took me now 45 minutes rather than 90 minutes. So the more I do it, the quicker I get, which is quite interesting. Yeah. So that was actually pretty cool. Of course, thanks. So our next steps, of course, is to tie in to live data. So now that we've proven that hypothesis from a community point of view, from a board point of view, and then also add in those hyper categorizations. So taking those lessons learned from VT, Russell, all of those guys who did some really cool hackathon submissions at the beginning of the quarter, to see about how do we add that to a Google Sheet, that whole hyper categorization there. And then we can put it into an app, and that makes it more family friendly, and I can actually use it with my whole family, can actually do stuff, which is pretty cool. And then of course, Dan's done some really cool work with his connector. If anyone wants to try and put that into a Google Sheet, please let me know. I'll fully support that. But if we can get that will be really cool. There's a lot of things I want to do more with this, of course, is expenses per user, which is on the app. So I've got it categorized per user, and you'll see that in the Loom video. And then, of course, that running budget app that I kind of said about, if we're running over budget on one thing, can I transfer money immediately from the app, to my main account to cover the loss in budget. So yeah, that's that. Can we move on to the next page? Oh, thanks. So thoughts, questions, comments, feelings, emotions, it's all cool. Quick questions. I know you always ask. I know that someone's asked, because did I have fun boarding it? Yes, of course I had fun boarding it. It was really great fun to play around with other people in the community to build something in a really quick time frame. And then just those lessons learned about it, because then we're taking this content and building it into a starter tutorial that other people can quickly build out a quick budgeting app and get using the API very much more quickly. As my whole English is getting worse and worse as the night goes on. So That's essentially it. We have a very cool starter app that we always show the guys. If you're part of the Programmable Banking community and you haven't done that starter, that Rootee card thing, please jump onto our how to build something really simple. And please, it takes 5 minutes to do a quick little thing. So a little Slack or integration with your programmable card. But then this tutorial would then be a next step up, saying, right, how do we make more formal sort of our documentation and tutorials for the community by the community. So this was also a quick way to put out some content that we all are a part of. So yeah, that's me, I think. Anything else that I'm missing?
I'm glad you had fun, Nick. We had fun watching you.
Thank you. Yeah. Because you'll notice in the Loom video that the sound is off because there's a lot of the whole swearing and like trying to figure out maths, and so there's no sound on the Loom video. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Guilty.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's cool.
Nick, I have a question. Thanks. That was really interesting. So that Glide app builder, once you've got an app, what's the process for getting it like on your phone, or how does that work? Is there an install process, or what happens?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question.
So easy, beautiful.
Yeah,
I was so excited about that because I thought it was just so perfect. I'm muting.
No, it's cool. I'm going to share my screen quickly again so you can just see. So a lot of times you'll be able to share a URL, and you can also take a scan of this, and you can install it. You can share the app on Twitter, on Facebook. So when you open this up on your phone, you can save it to your home screen, and there you really got the app already there, which is really cool. So you're publishing the app is literally a click, which is something that you can literally just say publish. You can change up the URL a little bit, and then if you buy it, because again, this is all free. Google Sheets is free as much as they take our data and they're all overlords. But then the Glide app is also, it's all free also, until if you want to do over branding, if you want to white label the whole thing, if you want to do the little thing, but it's literally a publish and you're good to go.
So it publishes as a web app.
Correct. So it's a web app. Yeah. So a web app that works on your device, on your phone, wherever you are, and you can also view it on, say, because this is how it would look on a tablet. So you can also see it on how it would look on a tablet. So any mobile device.
Nice.
Yeah. Very cool. But quick. So the idea was quick and dirty. Get it out there. Test it out. People like it. Keep on building it, and then you can build from scratch. That's the concept. Cool. Any questions?
Any other questions for Nick?
On a scale of
The
1 to
man
10,
with a plan.
you hate PowerApps.
It's a tricky one. I hate my experience with it. I see the potential of what it can do, but it's just yeah, I know. Yeah, the problem was the access control, permissions. I spent more time, as I mentioned in my notes in the slides, I spent more time on the platform than in the thing. You know, I was so like my Power App I think after 2 to 3 days, I literally had a funny graph and a button. That's essentially how far I got with Power Apps. I spent the majority of the time just trying to figure out everything else and get permissions, and Power Apps doesn't like Google Sheets and Excel permissions and stuff. So yeah.
Glide looks super powerful.
Oh yeah, I've been following them for a while, and they've been around for a while, since 2016 or so. So they're legit. Yeah. Cool. I think we're good.
Great stuff. So we're good to move on.
Yeah.
Nick's going to give us some community updates. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Do you want to share your screen or should I?
I will share. Sorry, I thought I was still shared. My bad.
No.
There we go.
Good. Let me actually just do the request thing. Cool. So community updates. Pretty interesting month. Been pretty cool. I didn't do a slide on this. I should have done a slide on this, but we've actually had about 60 odd new people join our community, which has actually been pretty cool. It's been a big month for a programmable banking community. So that was actually pretty interesting. I'm going to slide this little link for the events. Cool, thanks, sir. Guys, we'd really appreciate any feedback that you have around tonight's meetup. Anything that you think that we can make better, that you like, that you didn't like, just any sort of comments is always helpful, is always cool. We always appreciate this because, again, this is your meetups. We want to make this more and more your meetups. Karina, as a community member, really giving her vibes here. So we want to make this more and more a community space for you guys. So we'd love your feedback around it. How do we make this better? How do we make it cooler? You know, that sort of stuff. And then, of course, I'll randomly, super randomly pick a random draw winner to win some cool offers and swag, some Ziggy swag. Check what else we got there. I'll bend Shannon's arm a little bit for some cool swag. Okay.
I must say, I find it very suspicious that you had to repeat the fact that it's random 10 times in a sentence.
Super random.
Bitches, no.
Super random. Got a whole algorithm.
Karina.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for my Pucky shirt. It's on my wish list.
I know, it's literally on the task list. I got it as an assignment ticket. Cool. Let me just move to the next page. Guys, what you filling out, where you filling out the form, I'm just going to tell you very quickly about our champions program and our guilds. So we're still trying to figure out a cool name for this. What do we call these guys? I don't know. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to put it into the chat or let us know in Slack. It's always cool. But these guys are the people who are really engaged in the community. We want to support them. We want to make them feel recognized. It's always cool. And to empower them more to help other people within the community, because we're all trying to help each other here. So it's a circle that we're trying to make. So if you want to help to make the circle bigger, please let me know. So we beta launched a community guilds sort of program. I kind of took it a step-by-step sort of process. At first, I spoke to a lot of the community members and asked them sort of our questions about what is it about a community that you like, what you don't like. And we kind of were looking at what is Programmable Banking Community version 1 and what would a Programmable Banking Community version 2 then look like. So we identified that, hey, look, we've got a ton of new community members who've come in, to the community. There's over 700 community members in the Programmable Banking community, which is actually very cool. But mostly are single community managers just driving it. So, I'm running around, and if I get hit by a bus, can it still run? And then lack of support was identified as surrounding the post, those formal sort of touch-up points. So while the hackathons, there's a process for there, a lot of times the guys would build something really cool and then just put it out there, and then there's no real support for them to help to build it further. So then champions can help to build that out a bit more. And then, of course, there's a high level of engagement, but no formal sort of whole recognition around it, which is what we're trying to do and say, right, thank you very much for your time, your effort, and just being a very cool human being. So a version 2 of our community would look to everyone is participating and helping to grow the community. They get something out of it. There's clear and democratized sort of support that, hey, who are the champions within the community? Who do I talk to if I wanted to know about some Excel? I know that Russell's the person for that. If I wanted to walk away with a smile on my face, I go to Karina. Who do I go to? If I wanted a hugs, I'll go to hugs. That sort of thing. So we'll work around that. So how do we do that? So that's the version 2 I'm envisioning, and that's based on all chats with a lot of you guys that you've also said this is the type of community that you want to be a part of. So let's see how we can make that. So the next step around that was basically to invite a couple of these guys together, saying, hey, find the best sort of people within the community who are really engaged, who are really supportive, who put their hands up for a number of things. how do we actually support them? And what we're chatting to them, there's two sort of groups, guilds, essentially that are forming. And this is all organic, which is very cool. The one is a content sort of guild. So if you're interested in writing blog posts or education tutorials, helping with the technical docs, video explainers of some really cool whole API feature or something, because the guild's the space for you. The culture guild would be a bunch of people really keen on just engaging, helping people, really getting to know them, helping them to be the best selves, helping them build really cool things. So helping with engagement, onboarding, meetups, the hackathons, sort of. And these aren't exhaustive lists. This is just examples of the types of fields that they're looking at. And again, people can move between that. Oh, so I think I jumped one. Oh yeah, I did. So sorry, apologies. So what would a champion do? Well, we're kind of envisioning that they'll spend maybe 30 minutes a week just helping us, just posting about the meetup, just posting about the new blog post, just sharing it on your socials if you can. That'll be really cool. Participating in any competition. So the post event form is sort of a small competition. So it's super random. So yeah, so there's that. But then if you want to join a community, if you want to join a guild, a community within a community, we are assuming that it may be a 1 hour a week. Not too sure what that task is going to be, but there are 2 of them. So we're having a kickoff meeting tomorrow. So if you would like to be a part of the Champions program and would like to attend one of these kickoff sort of chats, we will start to define what it is that the guild is going to do, how they're going to work, what is the cadence, what is the operations around it. I am here to support that. This is your space to really show and have a space that you really feel is comfortable for you, that you can do some cool things with it. So some people like to write, other people like to talk. Let's make a space that you can do that. Pretty simple. Hope it's simple. We'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. The next because the next meetup that we have is on the 27th of October. The technical roadmap where Neil and Henny and Wayne will talk about what they have planned for that quarter and what they have done in this quarter. And it's also a space for you to give your feedback for them or to them about anything that you think that you like, that you don't like, and what you think that the guys can work on next. So, yeah, I think that's done for that's me for the update. Any questions that I'm missing? I think cool.
I don't see any questions in the chat. Any questions, guys, about the randomness of the winners?
Oh, Lawrence, you're cool. You're good, man. Okay.
Okay, great stuff. So anyone here interested in being a champion? I'm sure we've all got our different values to add. I will definitely be joining one of the guilds and having a little bit of fun there. So please come share your knowledge with us and, make some tutorials and teach us some stuff.
Yeah, and it's also great, and it's also a great way to just both share your knowledge to help other people to learn from them and to teach. So it's just a cool space for you to explore the stuff that you like to do already. It's not a whole new learning thing or something that because you would like to do more of. If you want to learn how to do cool videos, or something, then this is also a space for that. Yeah. Cool.
Great stuff. That concludes the festivities for this evening. Well in our time frame, can I say thank you, Sensei Dan. Thank you, Sensei Nick. Y'all were on point and on time, and I'm just loving it. Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Feel free to hang around if you want to afterwards. But if you have pressing matters or VT, if you have lights to switch on, then feel free to be our guest. You needn't sit in the dark.
Karina, thanks for hosting. It was really great.
Yeah, and a big round of applause to Karina, our very first meetup. Well done. You were awesome. Loved it. Thank you.
Karina, I have a very off-topic question, if you'll indulge me. What does one do with so many dice?
Oh God. Give me a second. I'm right back.
Okay.
Oh,
I feel
no,
like we're gonna
you
go
started
now.
Yeah, you started something. Yeah.
It's
Oh, no.
exciting.
Here
we just
comes the
started.
Tupperwares of dice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just started a whole D&D game. Yeah. I think we just started the game.
Like, if you need to make your swag draws more random, I think Karina can help.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I love that. Yeah, Karina needs to
Excellent.
throw a dice. Yeah, she needs to throw a dice. Yeah.
Cool. I need to head, so I'm gonna say goodbye.
Shan.
Bye.
Everyone.
Thank you, Chan. Take care.
Bye.
Oh my goodness.
What the hell?
Wow. Okay, there's like, I see like 50.
Yes, yes. Okay, take it.
This is not all of my dice. This is but some of my dice.
But some of your dice.
But yes, do any of you play D&D?
No.
No, seriously, not. Maybe it's age.
Yeah, I
I've been
do.
playing.
Alex does.
Who? What?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I was so excited recently because I've been the DM for the family and the friends for more than 20 years, and my daughter upgraded. She leveled up and she's a DM now. So she's taken a charge a little bit. So now I get to play instead of DMing. But basically what you do with the dice, Dan, is a lot of the things are by chance and some skill that you do in the game. So you will roll the different types of dice that have different types of purposes. So you've got a normal D6, which is a standard 6-sided die. This is a new set I got from Comic-Con. Sorry, geeky. And here's a D20, so it's got 20 sides. D8, it's got 8 sides. And each of them, so for instance, my character, Red Battlehammer, she's a dwarfish, feisty, red-headed, tiny explosion of violence. She's a fighter. And she has a phenomenal battle cry when she goes. I've even got pictures with a massive sword. Ugh! So her axe does 1d8 damage. So when I hit a creep, I take my d8 and I roll it, and that determines the damage that I do to that person, as an example of how the dice work. But other than that, you can just spend many hours looking at your shiny, looking at your pretty dice.
I feel like you've explained why you have like 4 or 5 dice, but not why you have like 60.
Because depending on the situation, your dice may not be warm to your hand, and you may be rolling nat ones. So on a D20, when you're rolling it to hit, if you roll a 1, it's an automatic miss. If you roll a 20, it's a critical hit. So you
Basically,
get more damage.
Basically, she's saying it's like being at a poker table and having somebody blow on the dice to make it lucky. It's like the blue ones are not working today. Let me try the red ones. See what happens.
Basically, no, not really, but basically. But also sometimes like some spells you cast may have 4d6 damage. So then you need to roll 4 6-sided dice. So yeah, so sometimes you need multiples. If you're rolling with advantage, you roll 2 d20s.
Digital dice fix this problem.
Yes, but
digital
I
dice
don't like
fix
the
this problem.
digital. I've got it on my D&D Beyond app, but it just doesn't slap the same, man.
You see, that's the age difference right there.